Assalamu alaikum and welcome to the show Mindful Matters on Radio Al Ansar, 90.4 FM in Durban and 105.6 FM in Pietermaritzburg. A show that promises to provide an hour of inspiration, information and motivation with me, your host, Nazia Iram Osman. This is once again a pre-recorded show, so unfortunately no messages or WhatsApps will be taken. The topic for today is, are you comfortable in the skin that you are in? And can we ever be fair enough? A documentary investigating skin bleaching in South Africa said 1 in 3 women buy these creams. The statistics came from a study that surveyed 579 women in 2 Durban hospitals. This study surveyed 292 Indian and 287 African women aged 18 to 70. The women were patients attending the General Outpatient Department of R.K. Khan Hospital in Chatsworth and Prince Masheni Hospital in Umlazi. So from this, you can get an idea of the commonality of these products to help with the desire to be fair. The global use of skin lighters is not new. Although skin lighteners have been used for centuries, only in the last century has the production of this material become commercialized and global. The older generation used creams like Remember the Fair and Lovely, and the new generation uses pills and injectables. So the horror is that we do not know what these things have in them, and the high concentrations of these things in our body, example, HQ, steroids, mercury and lead, the same elements that at high doses poisoned Elizabethan courtiers who powdered their faces ivory white. So we're doing the same thing and we don't know what we're doing to ourselves. So these chemicals damage respiratory, kidney and reproductive systems. They cause cancer, affect the nervous system and can deform unborn babies. Now, in spite of these risks, authorities are struggling to control the bleaching innovations, which include a compound called GSH, taken as injections or pills. Underlying all of this is a psychological aspect, and that is low self-esteem and a discomfort with the way we look and feel about ourselves. Sometimes even a compulsive desire for perfection, which we know to be unattainable. To tell us more about this is a medical doctor who specializes in psychiatry and aesthetics, Dr. Javanika Moodley. Welcome, Javanika, to Mindful Matters once again.
Hi, Nazia. Thank you so much for having me on the show again.
And this is quite an exciting topic because it just started with us chatting.
Yes.
And we got to it. So, but I know you've been here, but just to refresh the memories of our listeners, can you tell us a little bit about the work that you do, and this time especially with aesthetics?
Oh, lovely. Thank you. I am a general practitioner, and for a long time, my focus has actually been in psychiatry because I have a diploma in psychiatry, and you know that I was in Cairns for a long time in the psychiatry department. So that's my baby.
Right.
But with time, I've actually had a call for more aesthetic procedures and things to be done, and at times, you have to go with the flow or in a sort of safe way, or what's acceptable to you. And so I've introduced a little bit of aesthetics in terms of the things that I feel I like to do or I believe in, and I've now started offering that at my practice. So I've actually moved to a new place, and
wow, congrats.
Following on from Cape Town and Johannesburg, where they have these drip bars, they call it.
Okay.
Drip
bars.
A drip bar. Yeah.
Okay.
So I actually have a drip bar.
Yeah.
and basically it's not, there is the huge thing, like you mentioned, is the glutathione.
Right.
That's being used quite a lot, and it's only once you tap into it you realize how huge the market is for it. Right. So I've had a lot of call for that. But besides that, I've actually have, a drip for post-recovery for sports and your skin and things like that, so healthy skin. So I'm all about focusing on enhancing the quality of your skin, So if you're doing anything aesthetic, it has to be something like, I don't do Botox. Okay. I don't do, even though there are medical reasons for using Botox, so people with, having like excessive sweating and things like that, it actually helps them quite a bit. So there's always a good use for something that can be exploited by people
for
eventually.
other stuff. Yeah.
So personally, I don't really love to do Botox. I could if I wanted to, but I don't offer it as yet, or I don't offer it. But I do have microneedling at my practice because I feel that that's something that we'll talk about it later. So I'm not going to go into now. But I do microneedling, the IV therapy. I think I've seen patients, with lupus and medical conditions. Actually, I had a matric student that came to me with really bad acne on his skin,
Right.
and the drip actually helped him. You know, when a boy
Yeah.
chooses to come back and get a drip, that tells you that it did help, you know,
On
kind of
that,
thing. And
yeah.
he came willingly, because normally children are not going to say, here, please give me an IV for nothing, you know.
Yeah.
So my practice is now sort of still focusing on the psychiatry element, and then the aesthetic part in terms of the drip, and I'm working on a lot on lifestyle management. So doing weight loss procedures and things like that, in terms of not procedures, but what is like programs, because I'm trying to encourage people to actually take advantage and take ownership of themselves. So I did mention this the last time, where you can't really expect things can get done for you, but you actually need to step up and do things for yourself as well. And I think the ethos of our show actually is that people need to really start investing in themselves, investing in their self-esteem, and looking after themselves. Because if you can look after yourself, then there's less need for you to do all these other things unnecessarily, you know.
So like be kind to yourself.
Be kind to yourself, be
compassionate.
compassionate, do the things you need to do. And then even when it comes to, like I said, wellness things, you know, exercise and diet and all these things make you a happier person, a better person, a more well-adjusted person. And you're less likely to be influenced by other people and social media and all kinds of things if you are actually happy with yourself.
Yeah.
So this is the way I'm angling. I'm angling at people. Yes, these things offer glowing skin and things, but you glow. There's nothing wrong with glowing skin. You want your skin to glow. If you had to choose between two products, which one would you choose? You know, you want to look the best you can, but you have to do it in a safe way, and you have to do it unobsessively. I think that's what we're coming down to.
Everything in
Yeah.
moderation. But I think also the intent behind everything you do. You could exercise and it can be just for a healthier body, or you could exercise to be this, so I don't know, perfect size 8 or whatever the number is now.
You could
6,
then, you know, be
for someone
exercising
else to be happy
25
with you.
hours a day. You know, kind of not 25,
Yeah.
but you know what I mean? Like where it becomes your
Addiction.
sole focus, like an addiction. Yeah. So that's what I mean. We'll mention it later, but you talked about the psychological things, the body dysmorphic disorder, where people are actually so unhappy with the with
one
with
aspect or some
aspects of
aspect they
themselves.
choose.
They'll look at themselves and just see the bad skin, or they'll look at that, and we are actually entire human beings. We are more than that one imperfection.
But I think that's it. When they look into the mirror, they see that aspect. They can't see anything else but that.
Beyond that.
So
Yeah. And
I
that
keep on thinking, I
takes-
know we're going to come to it like with Michael Jackson. I'm sure he looked and didn't see such a creative artist, but he saw the skin was not white enough.
Well, it wasn't white enough, and I think, you know, when we think about it, that he's probably the one of the sort of forerunners of this, because we didn't really. We were just
back in the
he was
day,
just like a bit of a strange one, you know. He was black and then he was white, like his album.
Yeah, well, and life is grey, guys. It's
the
not.
thing
It doesn't
is-
have to be black or white.
Yeah, but you see, but then I remember his nose started falling off, and like he started falling apart, and then he had vitiligo, and he had all these things. So back then, it shows you that it was happening.
But did he even
then,
have
but-
vitiligo? Because we know it comes in patches. I didn't see any patches on him. But anyway, shame. Let's not get into that. So get sued by some Michael Jackson. Give me.
You know?
What do you say? The views and opinions of the presenters
Are my
of
own.
Alifan are not the views and presenting of the station. Okay. So, you know, a few things come to mind when I hear you talk. You said it was a calling almost, but it sounds like an external calling where it was, I mean, aesthetics has become very popular.
Yes.
You know, in the last few years, I've heard medical doctors getting into aesthetics. I didn't hear about it before that.
No, there wasn't a market for it. I mean, when I graduated, and then I had to do my internship and my comm service and things, and then my first year out of sort of in my own, like, as to be in general practice, I worked as a locum with somebody, and he was actually, in those days, he was doing a lot of bodybuilders and things. So he was injecting things and testosterone and this and that and whatever. And I remember thinking, how strange. And he was doing Botox and, you know, but in a nice way, in that, like, people who had like broken bones in the SAP and stuff, he like would manipulate it and like create a cheekbone for them with like fillers, you know,
Okay,
things
so
like
the
that.
intent
So
was
the intent was like to fix what was like, you know, and to make the person you know, feel better about being in a public space, you know,
Right.
that sort of thing. And I remember he spoke about it then, and he had a practice, but it was out of my, maybe it was there, but I wasn't aware of it, you know. But it's amazing how now that I'm aware of it, and it's now so obvious to me. You know, if I tell you a silly example, I went to Telcom. Can I say such a thing?
You can say that, but I don't know.
I went to sort out my telephone line
Right.
the other day, and then a young guy was helping me, and he said, "Oh, you have drips there." So I said, oh, "Okay, yeah." And then he said, "Do you have this drips?" I said, "Yes." And then he said, "How much and whatever?" And I said, "Okay." I just
This is
said
the
a
amount,
number,
yeah.
and then he said, then he carried on, and I thought, okay, never mind, this just whatever.
Yeah.
And then 2 minutes later, he says, "You're very cheap."
Yeah.
Something like that. And he says, and we were just shocked at the fact that this is just a little ordinary person that's,
Yeah,
and how common is it then?
That,
I had another patient that came to me the other day, and she said she's about 40, and she said her mum told her, you're way behind the times. Like, you need to get with the program because you haven't done anything to yourself.
That's a
and
bit
look at your
scary, hey?
friends,
Like we're working towards like Hollywood, how the...
So,
yeah.
and then, to bring, just since we're talking about Hollywood, people like Beyonce and who's it, Nicki Minaj and Rihanna, they've all sort of done skin lightening. It's not well sort of documented itself, or they don't speak about it too openly, but there's been a gradual sort of a lightening of their skin. So they are well-known celebrities who've actually done this. The difference with them is that they are using reputable products. So
Because they can pay
Nicki
that
Minaj is
amount,
not going to some auntie who's mixing a potion in her kitchen with some bicarb and lemon and doing something like that and throwing in some hydroquinone and mercury and doing whatever she wants kind of thing. They're using proper products.
Right.
But the normal person on the street doesn't have access to the kind of products that they have access to. And then if you bring it back to South Africa, we've got our own social media influencers. We've got Kanya Mbao. We have people who have actually said, you know what? I think her name is Nomasonta Mashizi. She said, I was tired of being ugly.
So
I was tired
black
of
is
being
almost
ugly.
equal
So black
ugly.
is equal ugly. So here's a person who's telling you they are literally changing the color of their skin because they've been made to feel ugly, or they feel ugly with the skin that they're in. So it shows you the
because in
depth of
post-apartheid South Africa, you'd think we'd be getting over this now.
Well, that's the thing. It's post-apartheid South Africa, and it should be a change. You're right.
There should be a change, yeah.
But in actual fact, when you look at the studies, they've actually there's a huge increase in the amount of skin lightening products being used in South Africa.
Yeah,
It's
because look at the study that
massive
was done
increase.
in Durban. Like we looked at Prince M,
Yeah.
which is Mlazi, RK Khan, which is Chatsworth,
Yeah.
and the amount of people using these things, it's
frightening.
astounding. Yeah.
So
Imagine, hey? But it's completely off the... I don't even know how I struggle with pronunciations. He was talking about this young guy with pimples.
Yes.
And I have a few of my patients that complain about, what is this that they use for pimples? Uracetane. Is that-
Uracetane, yes,
right?
yes.
Oh, thank God, I pronounced that right. But, all of these things, they have quite hectic side effects, right?
They do.
And you said that the drip helped. Is this now like an option
Yes.
now instead of using those kind of things?
Well, there's different things. I think
Right.
we'll come to that. I think what we should speak about is what are the different products that are
Options,
being
yeah.
used. So, in the lightening products, you get them in different forms. So you're getting them in creams, you're getting them in drips, you're getting them in ointments, you're getting them in medicine, you're getting it in lotion, that kind
Yeah,
of thing.
yeah,
So there's quite and soap. You're getting soaps now these days that you can
Yeah.
rub on yourself. So they come in various forms, and they obviously have different things that they contain.
Right.
The well-known lightening products that are being used currently is and the worrying things is mercury and hydroquinone. So you spoke about the white people and the dames of the olden days and stuff like that.
That use that powder to
That's
make
the
themselves
powder to make
all-
themselves, right? So this is that's working on the mercury and the hydroquinone. The fact that they have steroids and what you mentioned now, the tretinoin, which is the retinoid-based creams.
Right.
So, dermatologists use skin products with hydroquinone in it, right? But they are using it in a controlled, safe way. So there is legislature in South Africa says that you can only use a maximum of 2%
Right.
of hydroquinone in a cream.
Yeah.
We are lucky in that we have actually raised our legislature around it. So if you're overseas, you could use more.
Right.
And that brings me to the topic of, even with our advertising, we are bound in South Africa not to mention the word lightening at all.
Okay.
We don't. You'll see our advertising will never say for a
Oh
lighter
yeah, we say
you.
skin brightening,
We say
not
skin
skin lightening.
brightening. We say
Okay, so our government's not that bad, right? It has its
radiant.
moments.
It has.
Yeah.
So we've actually So they put their foot down in terms of not using those terms.
Those terms.
That doesn't mean that people
It
work
doesn't
around
happen.
it. You know what
Yeah.
I mean?
Yeah.
And so that also brings me, sorry, while we're at it, to a topic where you might be using things without realizing that you're using it.
Okay.
So in other words,
So you're
again,
saying you look at what's in
you
the
look
product?
at something and I don't physically go and turn the product around. And if I'm in a shelf at the shop, I don't literally compare like how much of this and how much
Does
of
it
that.
have, yeah.
It just looks at the bottle is pretty and
A friend may have
Nivea or
said it
whoever
helped, yeah.
for a fairer you. No, that's India now. We're going to talk
Yeah,
about India.
yeah.
But here they speak about, they'll say for flawless, radiant,
Brighter
and
skin.
brighter skin. And if you literally are looking at the one there and the one there, you're going to think that one's going to make you look dull. So obviously you're going to choose the radiant
brightening one,
It's just natural. It's
Okay, so without even knowing.
So without knowing, we actually are using products in South Africa.
So maybe you
without
can
knowing.
tell our listeners, yeah.
But in a fair way.
Yeah.
I mean, those products go through tests and things. These are safe in a way because they conform to safety standards. So I think that's where it comes in, is that it's different with people who are using things like that, because you're using it in a safe way. If you're using hydroquinone given to you by a dermatologist, then he is bound by the HPCSA to only give 2% in his cream. You understand? There's recourse for him if he gives you something that's more than that. And the loophole is that there's no recourse for the other people. The people that are selling it online. They did a study on 550 cases or something of products, and 28% of them had mercury in it. So here people are ordering things online.
Right.
They don't know what is in that thing. They don't know what is in the product. It's unmarked. They get this thing, they rub it on their face. They get so happy that they
Make me
become white
something, yeah.
overnight kind of thing. And this quick fix story is what is selling, it's selling the...
Yeah. So if it's too good to be true, it probably is.
It
That's the
probably
scary
is,
part about
and,
it. Yeah.
and that comes down to even the drips. We were talking about, we were talking about different options you have.
Yeah.
So the drips is, the what people are using in drip form is glutathione, vitamin C. Right? And then a little bit of selenium as well. So glutathione is the GSH that you mentioned, is like the new sort of...
Yeah, it's the big one. Yeah.
Right? Everybody's using it. Everybody has it. Everybody's offering it. And it's changing the mindset that, we thought when you were sick, you had a drip, you went to hospital, you had a line put into you.
Yeah,
terrible,
we used to dread it, by the way. Now when I see people chilling with it.
Now people are chilling. Literally, my new place has couches and footstools and... coffee machine kind of thing. So it's you're changing the idea of it and
the acceptability of it.
So glutathione itself is an amazing substance.
Okay.
It is really great. It, like I said to you, it helps with a myriad of medical conditions.
Okay.
It's actually an antioxidant, so they call it the master antioxidant, and it's present in like 90% of our cells already, right? In a sort of in a reduced form in all of our cells. So it's something that we use, and like how a side effect was found for lots of things, and the side effect here is the whitening aspect of it.
Okay.
So
that's not a bad side effect.
Yeah. So it wasn't
used for that predominantly.
It was used because it's a antioxidant. So people who took the glutathione drip actually felt better. They upregulated the functioning of their liver. They had less free radicals. People with cancer improved or felt better. Right? So if you used it with other vitamins and made like sort of a cocktail of vitamins and things like that, there's a famous cocktail called the Myers cocktail. If you added that with the glutathione, you actually felt a lot better. You felt...
so it's also the intent behind it.
Yes.
So, yeah.
And then what they've noticed is that the side effect of this glutathione was that now it actually brought about a glowing sort of complexion on the skin and brightened it. And then obviously now you felt so nice with this bright skin, so you went back for another one. And then that's where it becomes, it pushes into the obsession territory. So or this quick fix idea. And this is my big my big issue, is that, again, anything in moderation is fine. But with these products, you don't know the long-term effects of it. You don't know how much. We know 2 grams of glutathione is good, is okay.
Right,
It's
yeah.
what's acceptable. You could use it, things like that. But I've
beyond
seen
that-
people openly advertise using 5 grams, using 8 grams. And the fact is, yes, you're going to maybe achieve the effect faster, but is that...
Is it worth it at the end?
Is it worth it at the end? I mean, a lot of like the people who have lightened their skin with these creams and things, so that's the steroids and the hydroquinone, the retinoid and things that are in those creams that are actually lightening. And sorry, those are the some of the products. The other things that are sort of seen as acceptable in South Africa is mulberry, white mulberry, I think kojic acid. Those are some of the other products that have now, people have gone, strawberry, arbutin. These are all different things that they've kind of used from nature, and have realized that it has that sort of natural sort of whitening effect. So that's now being incorporated into creams and being sold as natural and free of mercury and whatever. So in terms of...
So there are those
in
options
terms of
as well.
Options, those are the options that are there as well. Again, you know, we look like we are one tone, but actually our melanin under our skin layer is actually kind of patchy. We just kind of have an even look most of the time. Most of us look even, you know, unless there's a big, huge issue. But we are actually patchy. If we had to like lighten, we will then start to see the imperfections of the dark spots and stuff, which our tan kind of
Covers
tone
up, yeah.
covers up. So what happens with lightening sometimes is that you actually lighten, and then those spots do come up. And if you stop, then those become more pronounced. So that's what's happening now, is that people are now, you know, they're having to maintain this thing.
That's my
continue
next
using it.
question.
Is
I mean,
that-
I've heard that you have to continue, otherwise it ends up looking bad.
Yeah. So you have to continue. And then again,
So there is truth to that then.
there is truth to that, in that you have to maintain. You if you don't, like say with the drip, the glutathione, if you stop taking it, then your production will go back to what it was. Because remember, glutathione is not, it's an outside sort of substance,
Right.
but it is something that's in your body. So all you're doing by taking it in another form
boosting it a
you're
little higher
boosting
for
the
a
level.
bit.
That's it. So you're boosting your
So
natural...
it's not that you get, is it because some people say you'll get darker? Is it that you get darker, or is it you just go back
No,
to your
you go
original,
back to your
and
original,
for you
yeah.
now
Well,
it
depends on
seems
the product.
darker?
So here, glutathione, you're going to go back to your normal production. You take it away,
Right.
you go back to whatever you were before, or your production goes back.
Right.
But with other things, they work on, the products work by affecting the melanin production. So they, on a molecular level or biological level, they're now actually interfering with the melanin synthesis. And melanin is what is the pigment that gives us our color.
Right.
So the mercury and the hydroquinone and all those things actually halt
That.
so they either affect the enzyme that breaks it down, or so you're ending up with a change in your melanin production that then now lightens you. So if you take that away, you're going to go back to what you were
And I
before.
think we forget that on a cellular level, the body wants homeostasis, which means it wants balance.
Yes.
So I mean, I always think of, when you're talking, I'm thinking about smoking. When we smoke, we increase certain levels of our body where the normal stress release hormones are reduced because it's getting it from an external source. Thus, smoking is addictive.
Yes.
So now, if we're putting these products in, even though it's natural, the body says, "Hey, I'm getting it from an external source. Let me lower my own production."
Yes.
Could that be possible?
Yes.
So that's
That's
we're
a
seeing
danger.
what
So
we're
you're
seeing.
actually ending up with shooting yourself in the foot in the end,
In the long term,
possibly.
yeah.
And that's what comes down to me. Even the glutathione for me is when I was reading up for the show. Even I'm, like I said to you, I only believe in using that dose
Right.
that I agree with.
Right.
I don't even mind if you use it for a longer period.
But use less of it,
But
so we
less
can
of
see.
it, so it's safe. You don't know at the end of the day, we doctors, and we're supposed to do no harm. You know what I
Yeah, we're
mean?
supposed to do no
And
harm.
so,
Supposed to do more good.
Yeah, we don't know what we're doing, effectively, because there's no sort of, this is experimental. And let me tell you,
And it's hard sometimes because you want to make your patient happy and give them what they want, but
well,
sometimes you have to say,
you
look,
have to
this
say
is
no.
not good for you.
Yes, and I've actually had that issue because I've given, I've actually gone out to some salons and things, and I do like a drip day and stuff, and I was actually surprised, first of all, at how much it has been used already. So one lady was on her 20th drip
Oh, word. Yeah.
For 20 weeks, she's taking this thing, and I'm like, whew, even for me, I'm like,
commitment even to exercise doesn't go that far, man.
I can't get to the gym once a week. It's allowed. You have to
Imagine.
go and sit and do this every week, whatever. It's
Yeah,
quite
it
a
is
lot.
commitment.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's commitment. And
But imagine if that commitment, I mean, okay, I'm sure it has a space, but lifestyle change, if you're committed and disciplined like that, you know,
how much your life could be better.
How much your life
but
could be
but it
better.
also comes down to how much of time are you supposed to, where does it end? I think for me, this is another story, is that, like, I look at people nowadays and they have fake eyelashes,
it's
fake,
fake. Yeah.
fake hair.
Yeah.
I mean, the new Miss South Africa, I was so happy. She's sort of dark skinned,
Yeah.
and she's got natural short hair.
Yeah.
And she's actually been, they're actually making a big deal about that, and I like that.
Be
The fact
comfortable
that
in the
they're
skin that you're
making a
in.
big deal about
Yeah.
it means that
It's
they are
quite rare
aware
now.
of the extent of how much we sort of think long hair and long straight hair and fair skin is the ideal
Yeah.
sort of look that you should be going for. And she's actually turned that on its head, and that's a great thing, because we need to use our media. Social media is huge.
Yeah, it is.
You can use, I mean, if we can, going forward, we need to actually harness that kind of thing and educate people more so that they make better choices.
On that, yeah.
Ultimately, I mean, Nazia, everyone's going to, we all want to look better. And
Yeah.
I mean, there's no harm in using something if it's used rationally and properly and
In moderation.
in moderation and safely. But I think here, where it's just you can buy, I mean, you go to the spice shop and you buy some soap that's
That can
going to
make you
bleach your
whiter.
skin. Now, seriously,
Yeah. But I won't lie. Back in India, from the day when I went years ago, bleaching your skin when you went for a facial was part of the deal.
Yeah.
So I don't know whether it's an Indian thing or not, but I feel the pressure that as an Indian, being white equals beautiful or equals success or equals more doors will be opened
No,
for you. So I mean, you can tell me if I'm wrong with
No,
that
no, no.
generalization.
You're right. I mean,
but
it is a generalization. We live in Durban. When the baby is born,
What's exactly the first thing the
first
baby's
thing they will
born?
ask you is, well,
Is he
you know,
fair?
and sometimes you wouldn't want to say it. You want to be
Oh, what
tactful
about
about
this?
it.
Oh, but they won't say he's fair ducted. Oh,
Nice
he has
features.
nice features.
Yeah.
The fact
And
that
even
we
a
know
new-
that.
Yeah. And then if you have a new partner, you introduce in your husband. The first thing people kind of do still look at is that.
Yeah, they do.
And that
have you
shows
ever
you that
heard the
we-
shame? He's nice.
he's
but he's a bit dark. No.
And even I've heard horror stories, actually. I'm glad it's changing, but in the olden days where you had like, people will tell you now about how the grandmother treated them so badly because
Yeah.
of the 7 children, they were the darkest one. So the darkest
Yeah.
one really,
Had
really
to bear
had
the
a bad
brunt of
time.
it, yeah.
Had to
And it's- and
clean
it-
up
and you know, the
the
horrible
house
thing-
and had to
yeah.
clean up after the other fairer children and stuff. I mean, that's nasty.
Yeah,
It's
it
a
is.
child. So a child grew up thinking, and that child is now a person who's probably going to be,
And probably on a scary part might perpetuate that cycle.
yes, perpetuate the cycle, but also would be probably the ones who are now obsessing about their skin color and
Now
the
they can
first
come 10 shades
Michael
lighter.
Jackson on the run, yeah, kind of thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But
So, I mean, I hear you. So it's not just intrinsic where we're perfectionists or we're critical. It's society
That has
and the
these
pressure that they can
pressure.
also put on
Yeah.
us.
And there is that. I mean, and again, I did mention this previously, but we even tell our children this from a young age. We read them storybooks and things, and we
Or like
read
Snow White?
yeah.
Yeah.
And we say, mirror, mirror on the wall, who's the fairest of them all?
Yeah.
And then it's Snow White, and you're like, yay! So she,
Yeah,
like,
we
and
haven't
that's
met
something-
we
so-
haven't met a dark
so then-
heroine yet.
Yeah, and so then when someone else is fairer than her, then she gets killed.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it shows you that we are telling our children.
Yeah.
It's just it's
Yeah.
it's
That
sort of,
they're growing up
they're
with
growing
these
up with it.
stories.
We weren't logically, but we weren't
Consciously,
intentionally
yeah,
or
yeah.
consciously telling them that. But we are reading that storybook to them.
Yeah.
But I am happy. I mean, I was
Because I mean, all the
Moana came out
princesses,
now.
they always describe how beautiful they are and
Yeah.
how would the prince come save them
Prince
if they
come and
weren't?
save them and kiss them, and
If
then
they
become,
weren't, you know?
Yeah. So this perception of the fairest and most beautiful and things again, and the prince coming in to save
Yeah.
you and things again, but that is changing. I mean, that's a good
Yeah,
thing.
that's a good thing.
Moana came out and changed it
Yeah.
because she's the first girl that was dark skinned and
Yeah. What about
took
Shrek
over.
and Fiona, where they
Oh,
both
yes.
turn into ogres?
Well, that's a good thing.
That's a good thing.
So,
Yeah, because you don't judge a book
You know,
by its character.
yeah,
I mean, by
and you
its
accept
appearance.
somebody as they are, and a person
What's
is
in
more
all.
than their external,
But you know,
appearance.
the interesting, like we were talking about Indians and this whole idea about fairness. They say the products in India, 61% of their products have skin lightness in them.
Yeah.
61%.
So it's huge.
It's
and like you said,
huge.
you had a facial. If you had a facial there, it's part
had
of
to be
the
bleached.
procedure.
Yeah.
I mean, when I was getting married, the person said to me, "We're going to do a brightening facial for you." So I said, "Yes, yes, yeah," not knowing. I mean, I didn't even ask any questions. I just thought,
Yeah.
you
but
you
think about
it's a safe.
the functions we used to have. There used to be one day where they smothered you with turmeric.
Yes.
You remember that?
Yeah,
it was
yeah,
part
yeah,
of the
yeah,
culture
yeah.
of the time. And
And that-
what is turmeric? To tint you yellow. Isn't it? No? Is it? I mean, it could be more than that, but
yeah. But it is to give you
a fair kind of.
different shade.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, the
So-
Egyptians did milk, so not bad though. I mean, compared to lead and mercury,
Mercury
and all
things
the
are maybe
rest
a
of
little
it,
bit
to have a
better.
milk
Yeah.
bath. But how do we change the mindset? How do we? Because I mean, it's ingrained. It's from the time the kids are small, without even consciously. I mean, I think nobody does this with bad intents. We've been socialized into it. Our grannies have been socialized into it.
Yeah.
It's something we're bringing down. We're bringing
It's
awareness,
changing
but it's
slowly.
yeah.
You know what I mean? It is changing because we are definitely more aware of it, and we're more we're definitely more conscious about how we treat our children and what's
It's not
the things
so
we
much
say
colour
to them,
now,
and it's
yeah.
not about color actually and
Yeah,
things.
it's so much more. We need to start seeing the person
I
as
mean,
more than that.
I'm just remembering now that we were talking about in South Africa itself, where you even were sort of people were offered better opportunities based on their skin color. Did you know that?
So you're not talking about like
I'm talking about in Western Cape, like if someone went for an interview
Yeah.
and there were two people and one was darker than the other,
Yeah.
the darker person was perceived to be less intelligent.
oh my word, that's
and-
not
and
apartheid
le-
at all.
yeah, and less sort of deserving of this post.
Yeah.
And
But I think
by
very
the
quickly we
nature of
do
the
sort
colour.
of instinctively judge by appearance, but we need to fight that, isn't
Yeah.
it?
So it's something that everybody has to kind of be aware of because it's really unfair.
Yeah.
Here's somebody who's overqualified actually,
Yeah.
and in
But
both
their
the
skin
studies,
colour-
the person was more qualified.
But male or females, Javi, do you know?
Females,
Because
females,
that's
and then
objectification, where
Yeah.
you're seeing the female has to be attractive to be intelligent.
Yeah.
Isn't it?
Yeah. So I mean, and the fact that she's allowed to be intelligent at all is
Yeah, we can't
No,
our
but then
blessings.
even in that study showed that they like for domestic worker jobs, even for cook chef jobs and
Yeah,
things
yeah.
like that. The fair skinned one was perceived to be a better
But
cook,
yeah,
better
I
homemaker.
always put my foot in it,
better
but like, let me
everything.
push it, right? But for domestic workers, it was a family thing. I don't know. Families still don't kick me out. But don't we go for the thinner one? Because you assume they'll cost you less at the end of the month. So maybe it's not a color thing. But I mean, like, it's true though. We look at these superficial things and we make
judgments based on that. Yeah.
based on that.
And we really should.
And you know what's interesting? What's interesting is that this is the new South Africa Employment Equity Act, affirmative action. You know, we're living
moving
in Africa.
away from that.
You think you'd be
and
moving
now there's
away
black
from
supremacy, where in the old
where
days we
being black
blamed it
is
on
more
apartheid
favoured.
and colonialism, and I mean we lived in that.
But I don't see people
understanding
running to
that-
tan themselves, right? Indians don't run to tan
No.
themselves, so it's quite deeply ingrained.
That's
that white is
the fact that
beautiful.
white is beautiful, white is better, and I think we need to actually really, really get to a point where the name of the name of the show was "Are you comfortable with the skin you're in?" And I mean on a level you have to be able to get to a point where you can look in that mirror in the morning and say, "Hey,
It's okay. I
you
accept
look
myself. What's in
perfectly
all?"
fine.
Yeah.
Hey, gorgeous, if you have to,
Yeah,
kind of thing,
yeah.
and just accept yourself for what you are.
Yeah.
How you wake up in the morning and how you look is you.
Yeah.
You are sum total of all your experiences, and embrace that. And I think we need to get to a point where we're comfortable with that. Yes, you can do other stuff to enhance
So you
it, but
can work at things to make yourself better, but
better.
it'll be
But it
healthy
shouldn't
and
be
in moderation.
your your primary focus where you do things in an unsafe manner, in a way that's harmful to yourself, or in a way that could be harmful to yourself. Because, I'm bringing it back to mercury, but hydroquinone is known to be mutagenic, so which means that it's cancer causing.
Yeah.
So what are the long-term effects of this? Could you be giving yourself cancer? Could you be
So you're a fair person that dies young?
You're a fair
Yeah.
person that's dead, basically. And how is that helping anybody?
But that's to show mindful matters. Be mindful of what you're doing to yourself. Be mindful of what you're putting, what products you are using.
Yeah.
Be mindful of the fact that you're kind, that even if you want improvement, let it not be in a form that is harmful. And, I think we'll use that as the last advice for our listeners, And thank you for joining us today, Javi. It was once again such an interesting topic.
Thank you for having me.
And
Thank you so
I think
much.
there was such a whole lot of valuable information, as always. And for the thought of the day, I'd like to use the words of our Holy Quran, which says, "And of his signs is the creation of the heavens and the earth, and the diversity of your languages and your colors. Indeed, in that are signs for those of knowledge." Jazakallah for listening in today, and looking forward to catching up with you next week. And now it's time to bid you farewell. Remember, be kind, be mindful, and enjoy the rest of your week. From me, your host, Nazia Iram Osman.